Hello and welcome. I'm starting just a couple minutes early to give everybody a chance to hop on and join us. And today I'm going to have to ask and apologize because I am losing my voice a little bit. So I'm going to have my tea here, and if I keep just kind of, I'm going to bring it a little closer. And if I have to just keep reaching for it, I do apologize because I don't know, I decided to go to the lake this weekend and my allergies have been going crazy since. So I hope everybody's having a wonderful day. I'm going to introduce myself. If you were with me this morning with Future, then you're going to hear my introduction twice, so I do apologize about that. My name is Evelyn Knight. I am the founder and CEO of Childcare Business Professionals. We are a company that helps childcare owners and directors learn how to find success, save time, and really automate their life and their childcare center while maintaining high quality research-based standards. I'm also a childcare center owner and a former director. I have worked every position in a childcare center, from cook to driver to teacher to the director. So I know exactly what it's like. I still am at my own childcare center every week for a couple hours a week. So I do know what it's like. I have that real world experience just like you guys. I'm in the trenches there with you guys. And especially through all this COVID, I have been there. Let me know if you guys can hear me okay. Hopefully I'll be able to see your comments as they come in. As you jump in, say hello and let me know you're there. I love the interaction. It's wonderful. And I do have my tablet here, so I'm going to be, sometimes for some reason I have a hard time seeing the comments on my phone, so I am actually going to log on here too, just to make sure I can keep up with you guys and know the questions you have or any comments or anything you guys would like to discuss with me. And also, one of the things I forgot in my introduction is I am the host of the Childcare Business Coach podcast. So check out my podcast. I have lots of great resources there for you guys also. Just episodes that talk about childcare management and what we do on a daily basis to get through our centers, and just really share my experiences and what I've been through, what's helped and what hasn't. So welcome and thank you so much for taking the time out today. Let me know that you're here and let me know where you're from. I'm always curious to see where everybody's from. And oh, thank you, Corey. Corey can hear me and says I sound good. Hi, Christina. Thank you for joining. So I hope everybody's having a great start to their week. And I know it's beautiful here in Northern Nevada, even though we've been getting some crazy, crazy windstorms. So I want to welcome you to the Enrollment Success workshop. If you're struggling with enrollment, especially now through COVID, I really want to help. I want to help to make sure that more child care centers stay in business. Our industry is facing a lot right now, and so my goal right now is to help as many owners as possible stay in business. And I really do appreciate the feedback. I've heard from a few of you on this, and I really do appreciate the feedback. Let me know what I could be doing better or if something was specifically helpful. So just a couple of housekeeping things for today. I just want to go over the workshop with you guys and a little bit about how it works. I will be live here every day this week at 4 p.m. and we will have a bonus session on Monday also at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So whatever time it is right now for you in your time zone, that's where you're going to find me all week this week, talking about how do we get enrollment in our centers, and more importantly, once we do get that enrollment, how are we going to keep it? How are we going to retain the children once we get them into our centers, right? That is even more important, because if you have a revolving door, you're never going to get ahead. So that's something we're going to touch on too. On Saturday at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, I will be hosting a live question and answer on Zoom. So you will be able to get on Zoom and talk to me, ask me questions, and we're going to have dialogue, which is so nice. It gets very lonely on this side of the camera, so I really do appreciate the participation. So be sure to join us every day. I'm really encouraging you to really just be here every day, show up, participate, work with me. This doesn't work if you don't do it all, right? If you really want to see a change and you really want to see results from this, make sure that you're in every single session, you're doing the homework, and you're using the tools that I'm providing for you. I understand that all of you won't be able to be here live for every session, so the videos will be in the Units tab for replay. So make sure that if you don't have time to make it at this time every day, catch the replay every day. It's so hard if you fall behind, but give yourself an hour. Do that for your personal development and to ensure your center's success. Put it on your calendar with a notification. Make sure you schedule it in there. I will be actually doing little homework posts every day too, just to get you thinking and more active. There is also a workbook that goes with this series. I did provide the link in the Units tab under Enrollment for the homework. So for the workbook, I'm sorry. So if you guys don't have the workbook yet, go into the Units tab. It's going to email it to you. There will be a form that you can provide your email address. It'll take you the link to download the workbook. The workbook is really designed just to get you really thinking, right? And just to really get to work through this process. The different things that I'm going to be having you do this week and think about, the workbook is just going to get that creative juices flowing, and it's designed to lead you in the direction on a lot of the things I'm going to be talking about today. So, and I am referring to my notes too, you guys, make sure that I don't leave anything out, and I want to make sure that I bring to you guys everything that I've planned out. So if I do look down, excuse me for referring to my notes. And so I just want to make sure I stay on track. So again, we will have replays. I will be hosting watch parties so that I can be on live typing answers to your questions. Feel free to ask questions throughout the video regardless of when you watch. If you're replaying, I do go through the videos every day to make sure I'm answering questions. The other thing is, I normally charge for this session, but I am giving it away for free right now because I just want to make sure as many centers as possible can stay in business. But because I do normally charge for the session, all of these videos will be coming down on Wednesday of next week. So make sure that you don't fall behind, because it is pretty important. And you don't we want to make sure that, I'm sorry guys, my phone's giving me a notification. I don't know what it means. But you want to make sure you get it all in. So by Wednesday of next week, you got to be able to complete all the videos, do the homework, because that whole session is going to be coming down. I do normally charge for this again, so, but that's why I am only leaving it up for a week, because eventually this will be going back into a revenue stream for my company. So let me see. Let me know where you guys are all from. I love to know where everybody's listening from. So I'm also going to go over what the week is going to look like in terms of learning. So today we're talking about really knowing your business and what sets you apart. So when I sat down and originally created this series and this session, I thought, what are the pillars to really attracting people into my program? How have I been successful in making sure that I enroll? Why is my center at a 300 child wait list, right? And how did I get there? And I can tell you it hasn't always been that way. 5 years ago, I was struggling for enrollment, and I had that revolving door. My center was that revolving door where people were coming in and out. We were really having a hard time with enrolling and getting the people to stay. So even if we got the enrollment, that retention piece was gone, right? But it was really just everything we were really struggling with. I was paying a lot of money for advertising, and I just didn't have a handle on it. Now, totally different ballgame. I do not pay a dime for advertising unless I do it as a charity. Like, for example, I will buy banners for the high school football team, something like that. So that is more of a charity buy, right? So and now I don't pay a dime for enrollment, and my center literally gets phone calls every single day. And I kid you not, every day I am adding people to my wait list, even through COVID. Even through COVID, you guys. I do add people to my wait list. And there has been 5 things that I've done differently that really helped my center shift. Going from struggling to get people through my door, struggling to get tours, struggling to retain, to getting to the point where people are just coming to me, right? There's definitely 5 things that I changed that have really made it where people are seeking my center out. And that's what I'm going to share with you this week, are those 5 components. That way you can put them into place. And I can tell you, it does take a little while, so really dive into this, get your workbook out, do the work, keep your workbook, and just keep the work going. It's not going to be something that happens overnight, but you can definitely put a lot of these practices into place now in order to be successful and start immediately. A lot of it will help. There's definitely things you can do right now that you can definitely increase your enrollment to at least get back to pre-COVID numbers or even beyond that, right? And I can tell you guys, my center is already at pre-COVID numbers if we were to take everybody out back. I've chosen not to right now. I want to leave it a little bit more slim in order to just thin out the numbers a little bit. But we called every person on our wait list, and we did lose a few. I have to say, we did probably lose about 50 children off our wait list, but my wait list is still at a little over 300, even after losing about 50 children. So, and I did have my staff call every single one of my customers and every single child on my wait list to make sure it was all active. And I'm basically going to give you this week the secret to how we've accomplished that. So the pillars to our success, I'm just going to give you a brief overview, and then every day this week I'm going to go into more detail about why these pillars have made a difference and how you need to approach them and what they really, really mean. So pillar number 1 is know your superpower. Know what sets you apart. Know what makes you unique, right? We're going to go into that in more detail in a little bit, so I'm going to just leave it at that for right now. Pillar number 2 is be seen. You need to be seen. Have a strong presence, right? How are you seen? And I can tell you, as we go into that tomorrow, I'm going to tell you how I've done that, and I don't pay for that on a monthly basis. I don't have to buy advertising. There are other ways to be seen that aren't going to cost you an arm and a leg, okay? The next one is going to be intentional in having a professional persona, right? The image that you put out there, your culture, your brand, very, very important about being very intentional about that brand. And then number 4 is always be tour ready. And I am going to put a COVID twist on that. How are you going to be tour ready during COVID? Throughout this entire series, I am going to give you tips about how to deal with this through COVID, because it has changed everything that we do and how we're doing it. But there are ways that you can work around it, right? There's always a way, always something we can do to ensure that we keep going. So the most profound difference definitely though will be Thursday session, when we talk about how do you tour during COVID? How do we address this? How do we make sure that the parents are still involved in the classrooms and they still feel like they're a part when we can't let them go back into the classrooms, right? So I will give you tips about that too. And the last is follow-up and retention. Following up is huge, and of course we want retention. If you get all of these children in, if they don't stay, then how does that help us? It's so very important to make sure that we are keeping them once we get them in our doors, right? Once you get them enrolled, it doesn't do you any good if they leave you in a few months, if you're not providing the level of customer service that their parents want and they move on to a different center. And I can tell you, like for me, I have quite the extensive wait list, and there's a lot of children that will enroll in my center that when I call them off my wait list, they're leaving different centers to come to mine, right? Because they've been waiting to get into mine. So how do you avoid that? So how do you make sure that once they're enrolled, they're not going to leave you when the next best thing comes along, or that they're not going to be dissatisfied with your service? Very, very important. But today we are going to be focusing on knowing your superpower, which is one of my favorite pieces. And this is one of the pieces for me that was a major, major game changer. And if you guys look at your workbooks, I'm leading you to really find what your superpower is. A lot of you that I speak to don't know what your center's superpower is. You don't know what sets you apart. You don't know what makes you unique, but you really need to know this. If you're going to take your center to the next level, you really, really need to know what makes you unique and what do you want to be known for, right? So one of the things I like to think about when I really help guide an owner or a director in finding their center's superpower is I want you to picture yourself somewhere, and you overhear, let's say you're at the park, and you overhear a couple of moms talking about childcare centers in your city. If your center comes up in conversation, what do you want them to say about your center? What do you want to be known for? That is your center's superpower, right? It's also your center's vision. Everything I teach on, you guys, if you took my recession proofing webinar I did, anything I do, right now I'm hosting a series in the Leaders Lounge seminar that's going on with Beth Cannon, and I am talking about how to create your dream team. That's the presentation I'm doing, and there is getting your dream team from the team that you have now. And even that, we talk about vision. Everything revolves around your vision, right? Your company's vision. So very important. And that is something I train extensively on. So, but a quick way to find it is thinking to yourself, what legacy do you want to leave? What do you want to be known for, right? And then what you need to do is look around your center and find evidence of that. Look and see, is this actually alive in my center? My center's superpower is our high quality standards. The vision for my center is to provide all children, regardless of their socioeconomic status, high quality research-based standard program, right? So I'm bringing high quality to every child, regardless of where they're from, what their parents' income is, what race, ethnicity they are. That is my vision. That is my ultimate goal, even through this company. Part of what I do here is to ensure that quality is up, and even through your centers, I'm trying to help bring up that quality to make sure all children receive the highest quality care that they deserve, right? So how is that going to play out in my childcare center? In my center, it becomes our high quality standards. We are a 5-star QRIS program. We qualified to be a 5-star, but at the time we were not NACE certified accredited, so we were awarded 4 stars, even though we scored high enough to be a 5-star. So quality is my superpower. We have extremely high quality standards. That is my center's superpower. So understanding that and knowing that might be one of yours. If you're a Montessori and you're really, really good at it, that whole philosophy behind the Montessori is going to be your center's superpower, right? If you're an incredibly loving, nurturing center, which is my second biggest fundamental part of my program, then that really nurturing atmosphere might be your center's superpower. So it's really, really important to pin down your superpower and to be intentional about it. A lot of us aren't intentional about creating that superpower. So our centers don't have a culture or a brand that really gets us there, right? So in the workbook, I have some questions to lead you to really help you to identify your superpower, or if you don't have one yet, to create it, right? Some of you may be in the position where you actually need to start from scratch and really start working on creating that superpower for your center. But really just understanding and knowing what makes you unique. And then you're going to really just put it out there. Make sure that you're educating all the people around you, and make sure that they know that you are really who you want them to be, right? You want to control the narrative of what is being said about you throughout your city, your community. You want to control that narrative, right? And so you want to really educate people on your superpower and why it is what it is. So knowing that is very, very important. I'm sorry guys, my notes got pushed out where they don't belong. So the other thing to really look at when you're looking at the superpower is find what gaps are within your community, right? And look at how does your center fill those gaps. And I want you to really think about it. If you have a lot of competition, saying something like, well, I care from infants through 5-year-olds, that's not a gap, right? That isn't really a gap in the market that has been open right now. So just to give you a very specific gap that my center fills, my center is open from 5:30 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. We live by the largest industrial park in the world. It's about 20 to 30 minutes away in certain areas. But in order to serve that market, we had to adjust our hours to make sure we were open early enough for the people to commute and get to work. No one else in my area opens as early as I do. So I'm filling that gap. So some of you might be in a position where you're not filling a gap, but you need to look at the other centers around you, look at what's going on around you, and figure out how can you fill a gap. On the other hand, you may be like me and you might have already recognized a gap and you may have already stepped up to fill it. You may have those longer operating hours, or maybe you provide service for special needs children where nobody else does in your area. Maybe it's the type of curriculum that you serve. Maybe it's the food program that you have, right? Maybe you pick up children from their homes and have a delivery system. So figure out, how do you fill the gaps within your community? And if you're not, how can you fill the gaps? If you really want to increase your enrollment, you've got to look for gaps within your community, right? So figure out what isn't being served. Maybe there's a school where school-age children don't have transportation to. During COVID, there's a lot of gaps for us right now. COVID has opened up just a huge amount of gaps. So for a lot of us, we pivoted, right? For a lot of you out there, I know that you did some pivoting and started serving a different demographic in order to fill a lot of gaps and get your numbers back up. And I know, especially if you're a director, this kind of concept can be kind of difficult for you to understand. As an owner, we understand that we have to do whatever it takes for our business's survivals, right? And normally we don't have to think like that. We don't have to think in those terms. But during COVID, we got into the situation where suddenly things got kind of scary for all of us, right? Especially if you were open, like my center was open throughout the entire time, we never closed. But if you were open in like February, March, April, it got very, very scary. And so there was a lot of us who were thinking, okay, what kind of gaps can we fill to make sure our numbers are going up? So some people changed. I mean, they might have taken a toddler classroom and revamped it to house after school children, right? Some of you I know have got a lot of like different iPads and made sure that online learning could happen, and you're still doing that. I know a lot of you who are doing that now, who you've made sure that you can accommodate the different Zoom classrooms and virtual classrooms in order to fill your centers. So look for gaps. COVID has actually created a lot of new gaps for us to fill. And so if you're really in need of increasing your enrollment, find those gaps and figure out how you can fill them. Another suggestion I would have is, if you don't have the resources, contact local government agencies. They are often very willing to help if you're willing to take on a gap and fill it, right? So for example, call your local school district. If the school isn't going back live, ask them for resources, ask them for help, ask them for referrals. Do you need iPads? Ask them to provide it. Call your state. There's a lot of things you can do, and I can tell you the squeaky wheel definitely gets the oil. That is one huge thing for my center. I've been a very squeaky wheel. I work with a lot of different government agencies. If you've been following me, you know that I'm a major advocate for early childhood education too, so I do a lot of advocating. But because of that, I get a lot of opportunities that a lot of centers don't have, because my name is known throughout the communities, throughout the local and state government. And so whenever a new opportunity arises, I'm the first one they call. So advocating, making sure you're a squeaky wheel and you're getting your name out there is very important. And again, you guys, I am losing my voice, so I am sorry. Normally I try to avoid drinking during my presentations, but I'm gonna have to take a sip of my tea if I'm gonna keep my voice for this. Okay, so moving on. Knowing your target market is also very, very important. When I'm working with a lot of owners and directors, a lot of the things I hear is they're not attracting the type of customers that they want to serve, right? So I really challenge you to look at who you're attracting. Are you attracting people who maybe don't qualify for subsidy, but also don't pay you, right? So what good is it to fill your center if you're just absorbing a ton of bad debt from parents? So look at what your demographics are. What kind of customer do you want to serve? One of my clients is a very nature-based center. Her entire philosophy revolves around the natural world. So if she is attracting people who are more materialistic, who don't want their children outside in nature, who want their children to just be clean all the time, that's going to be a little bit of a conflict, right? I mean, like if they're, wearing like just really expensive designer clothes and they don't want to see dirt on it or anything like that, which I know we all get that. But if that's the kind of clientele that she's attracting, that's going to be a huge problem for her program, because her program is so nature-based and her philosophies are just, children need to be outside, one with nature, in nature, playing, which does involve getting dirty, right? And if you have a parent and your customer base doesn't value that, you're definitely going to have a conflict and you're not going to retain the clients. The other thing too is you're not going to attract the kind of clients. So what I really want you to think about is, what kind of clientele do you want to attract for your center? Who are you trying to really bring into your center? Really, really get to know those parents. I want you guys to know where they shop. I want you to know what kind of cars they drive. I want you to know where they hang out on the weekend. I want you to know the restaurants they go to. You need to get to know who your ideal customer is. And I know that sounds crazy, but when you really have this image of who your customer is and you really, really understand that, the advertising you do, where you post your advertising, and how you go about it is really going to attract that person. When you understand the person and the type of family you're trying to get into your center, you're going to be so much better equipped in talking to them through your advertising. You're going to be able to make sure that your presence is where their presence is, right? You're going to know what kind of lingo and jargon they use. You're going to know what kind of magazines they read. You want to be relatable. We attract a certain type of people for a reason, right? There is something about us. You even joining my page and watching my presentation, there's something about me that made you connect with me. What was that, right? So it's different things that we put off, and it's just our different philosophies. I'm a God girl, and my Christian beliefs are very important to me, so I do tend to attract a lot of Christian people because I'm very vocal about the fact that I believe in God and that I'm a Christian, right? So that is what I tend to attract a lot of. We will attract the people when we put it out there. So make sure that you are intentionally attracting the people that you want, and you will be seen more. When you really find out who you want to attract and you really start putting your messaging towards them, they feel like they are more comfortable with your center, right? It's almost like that when you just know you found the right thing, right? So when you really, really, really know who your ideal family is and you're talking to them, they're going to feel like you're talking directly to them, right? They're going to know. So like for my client who is very nature-based, her clients probably shop at Whole Foods. They are probably go to like a lot of maybe organic farmers markets, things like that. So when she is talking their language, those are the type of people who are going to be attracted to her. She's also going to know where to advertise, right? So if she is going to put banners up, flyers, or even just posters, those are the places that she is going to want to do it. In those places where she wants to attract her clients. And on that note, you guys, I'm going to tell you, don't underestimate printing flyers, hanging them at local grocery stores, and just, having flyers at basic places, bulletin boards that we wouldn't normally think of. Just make sure when you do it you are posting those things in places that you know your clients are going to frequent, right? So if you are like my client and you are trying to attract that very natural, holistic type of a clientele, posting something at Whole Foods is a great idea, but Walmart might not be as effective, right? It's not going to be the same type of clientele. So really think about where you're trying to attract them. And your messaging that you put out into the world is going to start sounding like them the more you get to know them. So if you look at your workbooks, some of the questions that I ask might sound odd, right? Because I do ask you, like, what kind of car does your client drive? That's why I'm asking it, because I really want you guys to get to know who this person is, just to get that relationship with them and really understand who is this person that I'm trying to talk to. And that's really what I want you guys to think about, is all the messaging you put on social media or whatever, you're talking to a specific group of people. So you want to make sure that that specific group of people can hear you, right? And that you're being heard, seen, and that they're attracted to you. So being intentional and really understanding who you're trying to attract is very, very important. So I'm going to pause and see if any of you guys have any questions, and I'll check on my tablet since none of my stuff is coming through here on my phone. I'm not seeing anything right now. So let me just check really quick. And by the way, you guys, I actually lost my office for the week, so I'm kind of improvising. Normally, it's much easier for me. I can have my tablet in front of me where I don't have to keep looking down, but since my office is under construction, it's been a little bit more difficult for me. Oh, Brianna joined. Hi, Brianna. Okay, so I don't see any questions right now, so I'll be moving on to the next point. So that's basically just really understanding who your client is and talking to them, frequenting the places that they are, not underestimating the power of the free advertising like flyers and whatnot, banners. The other thing I really want to talk to you guys about is look at your surrounding area. Hopefully the demographic that you're trying to sell to is within your community, right? And I want you guys to think of community as your greater neighborhood area, okay? I think a lot of the people I talk to get so caught up on the city, right? Where they think that enrollment has to do with their entire city. But you really want to think of it more as a micro community. You don't want to advertise too broadly, right? You want to really concentrate on the areas that are really surrounding you, but not too close that you're affecting the numbers, okay? So you want to go far enough away that you're still advertising to a broad enough amount of people, but close enough so that you're literally not trying to advertise to 200,000 people in a big city, right? So something like radio commercials, TV commercials, that might be a bit too broad. You're talking to such a bigger population that can be a little bit more difficult. So when you think about more micro communities, look at your surrounding neighborhoods. What schools are within the district that you're in, right? And not just the district. I mean, some school districts are pretty big. I know, especially in my neighboring town, I'm right outside of Reno, Nevada. Sparks and some of the surrounding cities are all one school district. It's a pretty big school district, right? So I wouldn't want to advertise to the entire city, but I do want to advertise to maybe all the schools surrounding me, right? So think about what Little League teams are around you that maybe you can sponsor, and then that's also like as a charity, right? You're helping them out. Get your logo on their jerseys, get banners on those fields that are close to your center. Get your banners up, get your name known. Look at your local football team, your high school football team maybe that's surrounding your city. Look at the schools. How can you make sure your presence is very heavily known within those schools? Very important component, right? So think about how you can really look at that micro ecosystem and how you can make sure that your name is the first one everybody thinks about within maybe even a 10-mile radius of your center. There's something that's called branding, and branding is very, very, very important. And it starts at a young age where, and you guys know, like, all I have to say is I'm loving it, and you know what company I'm talking about. Just do it. Most of you know what company I'm talking about, right? Those two companies, McDonald's and Nike, have done such a great job of branding their products that I don't even need to say their company's name because they've done such a good job. This is pretty much what you want to do within like a 5 to 10 mile radius of your center. And I would say like 10 miles is probably good, depending on where you are. If you're in a rural area where, you know, the houses are acres apart, then you definitely want to broaden a little bit. But if you're within a city, you want to look in a smaller area. But you want to make sure that your center is known as that center around. You want to be the first center that everybody thinks about when they know they need to enroll in a childcare center. Or if the conversation comes up where somebody, you know, there's an expecting mom and they're talking about it with a friend, and the friend just says, oh yeah, there's that childcare center, what is it called? Everybody knows, right? And the way you're going to do that is to make sure that you have that really strong presence in those areas. Again, bulletin boards, don't underestimate them. The schools, having banners, sponsoring schools and different things like that. It's actually a very, very inexpensive way to advertise, and it's also a donation technically, so it works a little bit differently when it comes to, you know, how you're breaking down your finances. Because even though it's advertising, it's also helping out the schools, right? So really think about how can you make sure that your presence is known throughout your community. If you do want to spend money on advertising, one of the best investments I ever made was a billboard. That was pretty close nearby. That was probably the only form of advertising I would pay for at this point in my career. I just have learned that you really don't have to pay for a lot of advertising. I think my entire annual advertising budget is about $500 for the entire year. But if I were to invest, it would be a billboard again. That was by far the best investment I ever made. And having it local enough that everybody sees it, everybody knows your brand, and everybody gets to know it. But more importantly is just that reputation, you guys knowing your superpower, coming back to that. And throughout the week, I will probably come back to that over and over and over again, because knowing and having that strong vision that is so clear is so very important, and knowing your superpower and being known for that is so incredibly important. And there is a lot of ways that you can make sure that you're controlling the narrative. You can use social media, for example. Get on social media pages within your neighborhood, within your city, within your local area, and provide value. That's it. Like, make sure that you're providing value that has to do with your superpower, right? So another example on that, I'm going to use my client again, who's nature-based. She can go onto parenting pages, let's say on Facebook, and she can comment and whatnot and provide assistance if there's any kind of help needed when it comes to, you know, how can I help my child? I want to get them outdoors more. I don't want them in front of the screen time so much. She's really making herself useful, and if she goes in there and gives some good suggestions, helps them understand how can you help your child to become more out with nature, how can you facilitate learning in nature. She's providing some really, really good and helpful tools, and she's establishing herself as the expert on that, right? And she's also establishing herself as reliable in that this is what she really believes in. So when people see her center's name, and hopefully if she's commenting on the center's name, and they just associate her constantly, like, oh yeah, that is that nature-based center. They are just so knowledgeable on how to incorporate nature-based play into their curriculum. I really want my child to go there, right? For me, my research-based high-quality standards are very, very important. So my center does a lot when it comes to educating on what does quality ECE look like, right? I do a lot of advocacy work. I'm pretty much known in my area for it, and I advocate a lot for high quality standards. I offer a lot of free trainings. We offer parent workshops, a lot of different things like that throughout my city, and so that I'm known throughout our town as that person who has a very high quality rated center, right? And it's very important to note that it is not just my opinion of quality, but it is research based, and that we've been rated. So I provide a lot of different avenues for people to use through my center in order to establish that reputation. So whenever word of mouth goes around, that is what my center is associated with, right? And it's very interesting how that has served me very well. A few months ago, my center was attacked on social media, and it was interesting how many people came to our rescue because of that really strong reputation that we've intentionally created. My director also advocates a lot. She is very active within the community here in our state and within our county. We actually even lead our county's advocacy or our advisory board, different things like that, just so that we have that great reputation, so that we know that whenever anybody's ever referring to us, they're just associating us with that high quality, because that's what we constantly associate ourselves with, and that's what services we provide. We educate the public on it, and we just put ourselves out there, make ourselves available for it, and make sure that people understand our high quality standards. So very important to know what sets you apart, what you want to be known for, and really to control the narrative and getting it out there, making sure people see it, whether it is, just showing up to different things. And when the schools have their trunk or treat, be there, show that persona, make sure that people see you for who you are. Get active on social media, right? Get active everywhere you can with your child care center's logo. If you're wearing the t-shirt, if you're got banners made, whatever it is, but make sure you're associating it with what you believe in. That is so very important, that your superpower is what you're known for. So your logo, your child care center's name becomes synonymous with your superpower. So do you guys have any questions or comments for me? I mean, that is pretty much what I have for you guys today. And then again, tomorrow we'll be diving into the next portion of the next pillar of this program, which is going to really dive into your online presence and the phone call. Tomorrow, just a quick overview. One of the things I want you guys to think about for tomorrow's session, and it is very, very important, is where do parents find you nowadays, right? When somebody needs childcare, what is the first thing they do? First thing they're going to do is pick up their phone and Google, right? So tomorrow's session is going to be all about that. SEO, which if you don't know what search engine optimization is, we'll talk about that, and why it's so important to have high quality online presence. Very important component for tomorrow. So that, and then also the phone script. Your phone script is going to be the first line of actual communication with your center. So it's very, very important to know your online presence is solid and that telephone presence is solid. Because that is going to be your first line of contact with your customers, right? So let me look really quick to see if we've got any questions. Yes. Oh, hi, Tammy. I see you there. Yes, Tammy says that she tells her staff all the time that to know our superpower, and Tammy is one of my clients. So Tammy, of course, I'm so glad to hear that, because that means that you are taking in what I've been teaching you. So thank you for that. So if there's no other questions, I am going to end it for today, and I will be posting the homework shortly in a couple hours probably. So throughout the day tomorrow, please go through and just think about the questions I asked, and I will be posting some other resources. If you have a hard time getting the workbook for any reason, send me a message. I'm more than happy to message it to you or to email it to you, or you can post in the comments within this thread, and I'd be more than happy to get it to you. So I'm hoping that was helpful, and I will see everybody here again tomorrow evening. Thank you for watching.